So our instruction course number 10 is about the relevance of fundus fluorescein angiography and indocyanine green angiography in ophthalmic practice. And I'll introduce the both modalities, diagnostic modalities, which are very important for vitreoretina practice. However, nowadays, because these are a bit invasive procedures, so there is some hesitancy, especially in the newcomers, to order these investigations, which form a major role in the diagnosis and management of the disorders. Initially, we might need these investigations, but for follow-up, of course, we can do non-invasive techniques. So this instruction course has been designed in such a way that we can go through the procedures of fundus fluorescein angiography as well as ICG, and the newer developments like ultra wide field angiography, along with the dye-less angiography, and the special feature this year is the pediatric fluorescein angiography, which is again very important in certain situations. So I welcome all the participants to the session, and they will be the panelists for the discussion in this session. So I have no financial disclosures to make. This is how the instruction course will go. Introduction, then indications, then when to repeat, then ICG indications, ultra wide field angiography, dye-less angiography, and pediatric angiography. So fundus fluorescein angiography has been there for almost 60 years now in clinical use. The basic principle is that the fluorescein angiography, there is a visualization of the fluorescent dye in the intravascular and extracellular spaces. Fluorescein is an orange-red crystalline hydrocarbon. It's a C20, low molecular weight and high solubility in water, which allows it a rapid diffusion, and it is available in the strengths of 5%, 10%, and 20% solution. 80% of the fluorescein gets bound to the serum protein, and 20% is an unbound fluorescein, which gives us the interpretation which we need at the level of the retina. This is the only tissue in the body where we are able to see bare vessels, and the inner and outer blood retinal barriers, they are impermeable to fluorescein, whereas choriocapillaries are freely permeable to fluorescein. Sodium fluorescein gets excited at a light energy between 465 to 490 nanometer, that is the blue spectrum. So we need a blue filter, and the fluorescence wavelength is 520 to 530, which is the green yellow. So there are various indications which Dr. Sangeet will take care and discuss individually, starting from diabetic retinopathy, vascular occlusions, on to ocular tumors. Basically, we need to instruct the patient to be empty stomach for at least 3 hours before the procedures. Then we dilate both the pupils with the dilatation drops. The procedure itself takes about 15 minutes, and nowadays there are digital cameras, so the reporting can be done immediately. There is yellow discoloration of the skin. The vision is blurred for a few hours. The patient passes green colored or a dark red colored urine for a day. And these are the things which we need to tell the patient beforehand. However, he needs to report if there is any allergy in the form of rash or itching or something like that. And because it is an invasive procedure and there can be some complications or anaphylaxis associated with the procedure, informed consent for fundus fluorescein angiography is must. And this is the typical consent which we normally take. Arm to choroid time is about 10 to 15 seconds. Complete choroid filling takes another 3 to 5 seconds, and the arteriovenous transit time is 8 to 12 seconds. So in about half a minute or 30 seconds, the most of the procedure is over, and after that we just take the recirculation phase and the late phase. So these are the different phases. So there is a choroidal phase when the choroidal filling starts to occur, then the arterial phase, then the early arteriovenous phase when there is a laminar flow, then the late arteriovenous phase, then recirculation phase, which is after that half minute, and late phase photographs are taken at about 5 to 10 minutes. So there can be extravasation of this dye into the local tissues. So one has to be careful while injecting the dye, and there can be nausea, vomiting, or vasovagal shock immediately on injecting the bolus, or there can be antihistaminic. There can be allergic reactions, so you need antihistaminics. There can be anaphylaxis, hypotension, tachycardia, bronchospasm, tonic-clonic seizures, thrombophlebitis at the site of the injection. It is not absolutely contraindicated in pregnancy, but it is better to avoid in the first trimester. So emergency kit is a must. Nowadays, we keep a crash cart with all the antihistaminics and steroids, as well as the resuscitation equipment along with. So there can be blocked hypofluorescence, filling defects, pseudo-hyperfluorescence, pseudo-fluorescence, hyperfluorescence, or a delayed hypofluorescence. These are the patterns which are seen on fluorescein angiography due to the various defects or diseases. And one may see blocked fluorescence because of a choroidal nevus or any branch vein occlusion or a preretinal hemorrhage. The hemorrhage will block the fluorescence, and the dye will not be seen in those areas. There can be hypofluorescence because of filling defect, because of a optic nerve pit, choroideremia, macular scar, or a BRGO with the NVE. Then pseudofluorescence might be seen in RIP, and hyperfluorescence is usually seen in a neovascular condition or in large macroaneurysms, dilated leaking vessels, even malignant melanoma or cystoid macular edema will also give a hyperfluorescence. Then RP tear, CSR also gives hyperfluorescence, and telangiectatic vessels will also hyperfluoresce during angiography. Between angiography, fundus fluorescent angiography and ICG, there are certain limitations of FA, like masking of choroidal fluorescence by ocular pigments and rapid leakage into the choriocapillaris, which masks the choroidal vasculature. So ICG gives better visualization in those situations and is important for choroidal studies. And you need infrared filter in the camera for that. It is a water-soluble dye, and it is comparatively safer, and it is reconstituted with in the aqueous solution. It is comparatively safer to sodium fluorescent. However, adverse reactions can occur. It's an iodine dye, so if there is any allergy to iodine, that then this should be avoided. So ICG as a whole will be taken care by Dr. Dinesh Talwar, and there are special indications for this. It allows you various layers of the choroid to be seen separately, the Heller's layer, stellar layer, and a choriocarditis. There is a early phase, mid phase, late mid phase, and the late phase. Indications are mostly the choroidal lesions, CNVMs, and to differentiate occult and classic CNVM lesions, to look for a hotspot. So angiography, especially after the treatments have become available, ICG is very important for choroidal studies, CNVM, hotspot. So I would conclude here, and rest of these things like OCT, angio, wide field, and other things will be taken care by the subsequent speakers. Thanks a lot. Thank you.